Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, Nature, and today we're back in Maschine again. So I had a couple of questions on my Cubase Maschine workflow, both on the video that I did with Trias, covering the Maschine and Trias workflow, as well as on some video content I did for Rolly where I was using Maschine. I had a number of people asking me, how do you integrate this into Cubase? There are a bunch of tutorials out there. Some of them don't really explain what's going on. Some of them kind of are a little bit out of date too. So here we go. This is going to be how to set up Maschine to work with Cubase, at least how I do it, and obviously being Cubase 11. So I'll show you just how quickly and easy it is to get Maschine up and running once you've done the initial groundwork. I just go in here and I'll add in an instance of Maschine 2. I'll jump into my track presets here. And I can just select Maschine 2 Cubase default kit. And automatically I've got stuff loaded up on my machine. I've got a default 909 kit in here, and everything is routed correctly. You'll notice as well I should actually have the multiple outputs set up as well here. So everything is it can be routed to individual audio outputs if you'd like. And it's all done for you inside of this track preset. I do have a preset inside of Maschine as well, which I can use to import the routings into new groups that I make and adjust them from there. So I do have that saved. If we go to plugin browser, under user, I have, let's bring this up again, this Cubase default kit. I can load that at any time as well to overwrite the routing from another group, for example. If you're going to load that in, just make sure that you hold down the shift and make sure that the plus routing at the top is enabled. To do that in the software, you just come down here and make sure plus routing is on. We're not going to import that though, as everything is already set up here. Right, so firstly, let me just run you through what's going on here. I've obviously got the Maschine template loaded up inside of Maschine. What I've also done is I've created a Maschine drum map. You come in here, we can go to edit drum map setup. You'll see I've got C3 up until D sharp 4. I've got this labeled as pads 1 through 16. What this is going to do is if I create a MIDI pattern there inside of Cubase, I come down here, you see I've got my pads labeled here, and I can use this handy little drumstick thing. And I can just program stuff in like so. And there we go. So obviously you can see now we're sending MIDI to Maschine perfectly from Cubase. Now one little caveat with working with Cubase, which is kind of annoying, and there may be a way to work around for this. I believe there might be a setting that you can actually adjust for this. I'm not sure. But if you wanted to record from your pads on your hardware to Cubase, you are going to have to select this manually. The reason being is that this is a virtual MIDI input. You are not sending hardware signals. You're not sending hardware MIDI CC to Cubase in this mode when you're using Maschine. You are routing the hardware to the software, Maschine software, and that is coming into Cubase. If you wanted to send hardware MIDI CC to, let's say, something like Groove Agent, you can come into MIDI mode like that. Using the MIDI mapping software that comes with this, you can set up different note values for these. You can even do Mackie control setups as well. You'll see at the top here, I've got like render, mix down, bounce, add audio track, add instrument track. That can be done through Mackie control protocol, which would be a whole another video entirely. So if you want to see that, I'll be happy to do that too. Just leave a message in the comments for me and I'll look at making a video around that. But this would be hardware, but this completely negates the whole Maschine setup that we have here. And obviously this way around, you can't edit any of the effects internally in Maschine or use any of the other parameters here for controlling MIDI CC or enabling host automation on any of your sounds, for example. So let's just get out of that. We'll come back to this again. So you have to select this so that you make sure that Maschine is actually receiving from itself. And then you should have the recording enabled. So what we can do now is just Stuff like note repeat will work too. Unfortunately, the quantize feature, the shift quantize, won't work because obviously that is sending the quantize to the internal Maschine sequencer. So you will have to just quantize that inside of Cubase if you want to do so. And there we have it. There we've got our drum part now. We've got our drum editor opening up automatically. And we can also go into Maschine now and then route stuff out to separate audio tracks. I believe we may actually have some of them set up here already. We go to our mix console. You can see there pad 1, 2, 3 are actually going to their own individual outputs. Cool. So let's actually just take a look at the setup inside a Maschine so you know what to do, how to build this kind of template and then save this. So the first thing we want to look at is the groups, and you can do this on the Maschine hardware if you want. You can come over to channel and you'll see you have these same things set up here. You see as I did that, it flicked over on the software too. We're just going to use the mouse and keyboard just to do this now quickly. First thing you want to do is come over to the groups, come over to input for the MIDI. Set this to manual mode, not drum kit mode. That's going to convert a section of a keyboard into the different pads. You don't want to do that. We've got this set up differently. Manual mode, source none, channel all, so any MIDI channel coming in. It's not going to result in everything playing at the same time though, because we are going to set channels specifically for each pad as well. Then the start note, this is important. So the start note is essentially the root note from where everything is transposed from. And this is important because the next step we do is going to come up here onto this group section here. Go to group batch MIDI or group MIDI batch setup. Click sounds to MIDI notes. So what this is going to do is when we come over to our sounds now, let's take a look at the MIDI setup. For this, first the input, we're going to go default, channel 1, turn off MIDI through, and then go to the output, MIDI, sending the output to the host on channel 1. And you'll see here we've got a transpose value of 4. So transposing is essentially taking the root, which is C3, and then sending it up 4 notes. You'll see our C3 kick that we have, we play that, we've got a transpose setting of 0. So that is C3 plus 0 is going to give you C3. C3 plus 1 is going to give you C sharp 3. C3 plus 2 is going to give you D, and so forth. It'll go through all the way, and this will essentially allow Cubase and Maschine to match up. Otherwise, when you record, you're going to be recording stuff at C3, but the playback will be on C1, so you'll record and none of the stuff will actually sound. You'll have to take it down a few octaves to match it up to the pads in Maschine. Cool, so that pretty much covers the MIDI setup there. The audio, you can just click on here and you can route separate kits to different outputs. Oh, and I should also mention that MIDI setup that I just showed you there now, the host channel. What you want to do when you're initially setting this up is just select all of them using the shift click, and then do this, host, channel 1, and then leave the transpose alone because that is going to be coming from the root note. And the same goes for the inputs. Just keep them all selected so that you can turn off MIDI through and so on. It will apply to all of them. After that, just click shift it somewhere again, and you can select that. So you're off that now. That's pretty much it for the basic setup. So I'll run through a couple of other different scenarios. Let's say, for example, we don't want this 909 kit here anymore. We're going to bring in a group from one of the Maschine libraries. What you're going to do when you do that now is we'll stay on group 1. We'll go to the browser. We're going to go off user mode. And let's just select any group. Just to take that. Before you hit load, make sure that this is set to off. You don't want to be bringing in the routing from this group. You just want to bring in the sounds. You could bring in the patterns if you want. I'll tell you what, let's bring in the patterns and I'll show you what you can do with this too. We'll bring in the patterns for this one. And now we can hit load. And you'll see now we have a different kit in here, but our routing should all be the same. So when we come back now, so So it's playing back the machine. Let's turn off that pattern. So we'll disable that pattern. So we're now sequencing inside of Cubase the new sounds that we've brought in. We've also got a pattern loaded up here. We'll load up this pattern. Let's say now we want to get this out into this machine channel here and use that in Cubase. We can just click this little MIDI button here and we'll drag it out. And you'll see we now have MIDI on the machine channel. So you'll notice that it's brought them in, but it's all under one MIDI part. So one of the problems now is that if you want to start arranging stuff, you don't really want to be going into this part and, you know, editing out every single part to just contain like a kick sample or whatever. Now, an easy way to deal with this is to just use Cubase's collapse function, or I believe it's called dissolve. So if you click dissolve part now, we can dissolve this to lanes. And what this does is it keeps this MIDI part intact here, but it will stem out all 16 pads into separate components. So what we can do now is we can actually, you won't be able to name the lanes, but we can name the pad numbers. So if we wanted to just change this to, like, let's say kick or whatever, we can change this to, if it is, yes, it's a clap, so let's change that one to clap. And there you go. So now you can actually start sequencing stuff. You can actually even individually color these if you'd like to whatever you want. And we can now very easily start sequencing these. We can just bring these over here and we'll maybe take out all of this stuff in this first section. And we'll keep those there. We want to maybe cut our kicks short over there. Let's take these out. Whatever. Let's take a listen to what we have now. We should also just make sure that we disable that pattern again now, because we're now running the MIDI internally inside of Cubase. Take a listen to what we've got now. Cool, so you have it. Now you also notice that some of these are not sounding correctly. That's because some of these are actually set up as instrument ones. You would need to do some additional editing inside of Maschine if you wanted to actually have individual control over some of these pitched stuff. I tend to just leave those alone. If I want to do stuff with those inside a Maschine, I'll copy them to a new group. Typically, I want to use this as a drum machine. If I'm doing stuff with synthesizers, I'll either do it in Maschine and then export those loops as audio, or I will do it in complete control because I have access to the same instruments. However, it is possible to actually set this up to run instruments too, and I think we'll actually just do that quickly as well, because there's some interesting workflow stuff that you can do with Maschine in that regard too. So let's load up Maschine, and let's get some sounds going here. Pad 1, I'm going to bring in, we'll go to instruments, come down to synths, and let's just choose a bunch of different, let's say, let's go with synth pads. Let's do that. Come over to pad 2, browse again. Let's change the instrument now. Let's go grab a pad from let's grab that one. 2 will be fine. So let's take a look now at our group. We want to get MIDI coming in from Cubase. Let's go over to our sound settings here. MIDI. We're going to set our source to host, all channels. Source to host, all channels. turn off MIDI 3 for both of these. So now what's happening, we're sending using our keyboard to play this, we're sending in from all channels via the host to both of these pads. They both, if we could set different channel numbers here and we could have individual MIDI channels triggering different sounds, but in this case I'm actually using this as a layering tool. So we can, by setting it as all like that and then enabling the host as a source here, we're essentially using one channel to layer two sounds together. So what I can come back in now and do some editing on these. Let's take the FM8 one. We can add in effects from Machine's built-in effects library. Let's take something like distortion. It's going to be quite obvious. We can even go to the group, we can add in some reverb, or let's add in a metaverb. We can even take this a step further. Let's just add in one more sound here. They don't all need to be pad sounds either. We can go in into Hive. Let's go back to our browser. Or actually, let's just go to, I'm going to go to Diva. I'm going to go to user. I've converted a lot of my user files to Diva banks, so I can go to Marula Music. We'll take that Dream Drops, which is an arpeggiator thing. And just make sure again, so we'll come back to the sound here. Let's go back to our outputs and inputs, make sure that the inputs on the group, or on that sound, sorry. I just noticed I've just actually set the key mode off. So just another interesting way to incorporate Maschine into your workflow. Once you kind of understand how all the routing and stuff works inside of this, and this idea that a pad can be either a single sound which is triggered like a drum hit, or an entire range of notes, then you can kind of adjust the way things are done to really suit your needs. And I just suggest, what you should do is just take the time initially to set these presets up. Again, what we've done here now, I actually don't have a preset for this now. What I should do here is, once you've loaded up a few of these instruments here, save it as a Cubase preset. So you just load up a Maschine, you can load up a default layering patch, and all this routing and stuff should be available to you there. Now the last thing I want to just show you here, which I have seen quite a few people confused by, is what happens when you want to start automating stuff. So you'll notice if you, let's come back to our main view. So let's say we want to play around a little bit with this. Let's come back onto our FM8. Let's say we want to play around. Let's play around with the brightness, and we want to do that in Cubase. So normally what we do is we'd hit right, and you can see it's not actually recording anything in there now, which is problematic. And the reason being is because you actually need to enable automation for that to work. So what I can do is, let's just quickly turn down these other two so we can kind of really hear what's going on there. Right, so let's get back to our pad one. And from here, we just need to go back to plugin mode. the main page. On this 80s pad, you can see here's our dials that we want to automate. Just click this little down arrow here and make sure that you have host selected, and then go to all the host controls that you want enabled. So now when I play this back, I'm actually going to use the controls on the Maschine controller. They should actually write data to this as well. There you have it. And you've got all that stuff recorded in, so now you can go and sequence this in Cubase. And we're sequencing 3 different sounds here with Maschine effects inside of Cubase on one single channel with automation included. Just takes a little bit of setup and then you're good to go. So it can do a lot of stuff, this, when you know how this all works and use a little bit of creativity in actually routing things around inside a Maschine. So I hope this video was informative and you guys learned something from this. Give me a shout if you want to see other Maschine videos, what kind of topics you want to cover. Otherwise, I'll catch you soon on the channel. I'll see you then. Till then, take care.